Tomorrow we're going to start looking at inequalities and looking at this first sentence here. An equation uses an equal sign to show that both sides are equivalent. That's what we've looked at the past few weeks. Now what we're looking at is an inequality, and an inequality sign shows that both sides are not equal. One's less than or greater than the other side. So it's important to know, to remember all of our signs. So greater than, whatever number or variable, whatever it is opening to this sign is always the greater one. So that's greater than or equal to, and then less than the other way, less than or equal to. So less than or equal to, greater than equal to, meaning it can be less than, but it can also be equal to that number. This one, it can be greater, but it can also be equal to that number. And then sometimes you might see a sign that's not equal. It's just an equal sign with a slash through it. So we're looking at these, just filling in the right inequality. Well, if we were to read this, we would say 4 is greater than 9. Or sorry, 4 is less than 9. So we would use our less than symbol. This one, 5/10 is greater than 45/100. Remember, we can put a 0 there, and 0.50 is bigger than 0.45. And then -3 is less than -2. Now, when we look at these inequalities, we might see them either this way or this way, with the variable first or the variable last. When you read these, use the variable as the starting point. It'll just help you read these and solve these. So for this one, even though 6 is first, I want us to read x first. So when we read this, we would say x is, and then it's opening up towards the x. So x is greater than or equal to 6. You can also just flip this entire inequality and put x first, and then keep the sign in the same position with whichever number or variable it's opening to. So it's opening to x. So when we rewrite it, we still want it to open to x. So the inequality flips essentially, because we're flipping everything else. But it still says x is greater than or equal to 6 when we change the order. It's always just good to have the variable first, especially when we're graphing these. And this one, we would say y is less than 5/10. Now, looking at this here, we're going to do a few of these. To figure out something's true, the inequality has to be correct. The number on whichever one's greater actually has to be greater. So we're looking at number 1. It says k plus 8 is greater than 19, and then we have k equals 11. So we're just going to evaluate this expression and put 11 in for k. So instead of k plus 8, it's going to be 11 plus 8 is greater than or equal to 19. I like to put a little question mark above the inequality because we don't know if that's true or not. We still have to solve it. So 11 plus 8 is 19. And 19 is equal to 19. And since we have this little sign saying 19 is greater than or equal to 19, so it does work. If there was not this little line under, just looked like that, it would say 19 is greater than 19, and 19 is not greater than 19. Since they're equal, we have that line there. This does work. So if we look at the next one, same sort of thing. 12 is greater than f. Instead of 12 is greater than f, we have f equals 3, so we're going to have 12 is greater than 3. And that is true. So I'm going to rewrite it without the question mark. That works. So looking at this one, 3 is greater than d, and d equals 3. So now 3 is greater than 3. That doesn't work because 3 is not greater than 3. If it had that line underneath to make it greater than or equal to, then it would work. But just by itself, 3 is not greater than 3, so that doesn't work. Go ahead and try to work out these two, 4 and 5. plug in your numbers for C. So plug in 13 for C and 22 for B. Plug those in for your variables and see if it does work. So if we're looking at the first one, C is 13. So we have 13 minus 12, instead of C minus 12, is greater than 30. Well, if we work this out, 13 minus 12 is 1, and 1 is not greater than 30. So I'm just going to put a little slash through that. It does not work. And then if we do the same thing here, 16 is less than, instead of B, we're going to have 22, minus 8. Again, little question mark, 16 is less than 22 minus 8 gives us 14. And again, this one doesn't work. 16 is not less than 14, so it doesn't work. We can also do this with a little bit more complex expressions to substitute in. So in this one, x equals 5. So instead of 6x, remember when they're right next to each other, it means multiplication. So it's 6 times 5 plus 5 is less than 18. And then we're going to see if that works. 6 times 5 is 30, plus 5 is less than 18. 30 plus 5 is 35, less than 18. That is not true. 35 is not less than 18. The inequality would have to be flipped. So that one, so x equals 5 does not make this inequality true. There's other numbers we could plug in, but 5 doesn't work. Same with 22 and 13 and 3. Like we could plug in 2 for this one and it would work. All right, I'm going to go ahead and skip these 3. Let's look at the back. So we can just write and say inequalities, but what's important for us to know is that inequalities can also be graphed on a number line. So when we graph these, there's 2 types of dots we have. We have a solid dot and we have an open dot. We use a solid dot when the number is included, so it's less than or equal to and greater than or equal to. And then we don't use the dot when the inequality sign does not have a line underneath. So if we're looking at this one, x is less than or equal to 5. Well, 5 is going to be our starting point. So you can always just start with an open dot, but there is a line underneath this symbol, so it's less than or equal to. We want to shade in that dot. And we know it says less than. Well, the numbers less than 5 are this way on the number line. So you're going to go that way with your arrow. When you graph these, you can always, as long as the variable is first, you can always look at what direction the symbol is pointing towards. So this one's pointing to the left, so our arrow went to the left. But you always want the variable first. So you always want to put the variable first. And that'll make it just a lot easier to graph. So if we look at this one, k is greater than 11. We're going to start at 11. There's no line, it's not or equal to, so we want to keep the circle open, and then greater than, so we're going to go to the right. Notice how the inequality sign kind of points to the right. Now this one, you can graph it like this, but it's easier to have the variable first. So instead of, remember, and we want to read this as f is less than or equal to 12. So we're just going to flip everything. We changed the direction of the inequality because it's still pointing towards the f, which is what we want. Now we're at the 12. It's less than or equal to, so we want to shade in that dot. Make sure you can tell if it's open or closed. And then it's less than or equal to 12, so less than going to the left. Same with this one, starts at 6, whatever number they give you. And then D is less than 6, so less than to the left. Same thing here, C is less than 25. There's no line, so we keep it open. Less than 25. Again, here we want to flip this. So B, so read it with the variable first, B is greater than or equal to 0. So B is greater than or equal to 0. It's greater than or equal to, so we want to shade in our dot. And then greater than, so it goes to the right. Notice how I don't write it on the number line so you can see it easily. Sometimes you may see it written on the number line, and that's fine too. It's just a little bit more difficult to see when you draw on the number line, so I like to go above. And then x is greater than or equal to 4.5. Well, 4.5, we know, would be right in the middle of 4 and 5. So I'm going to put a dot there, and then it's going to be shaded in because it's greater than or equal to, and it's greater than, so it's going to go to the right. And if we look at these, it wants us to just write an inequality for these. We're going to come back and look at things like these later, though, so hold off on this. So if you want to go ahead and, this will be what we glued down. So I want you to take it, fold it in half, and then you can glue this. So in your notebook, when you have it glued down, it'll look like this. You can open it and see everything we looked at about inequalities, and you still have some examples with the number line. So glue where it says summarize today's lesson, put that in your table of contents. Thank you.